Wing Luke, my Uncle Wing, was a man of passion and purpose. So his passion was people. That's so evident. He was a man who would bring people together.
Who was Wing Luke? Many know him as the namesake of a museum. Others remember him as the first Chinese American on Seattle's City Council. But Wing Chong Luke was so much more. He was a courageous, often independent voice for civil rights, indigenous fishing rights, fair housing, and cultural preservation, leaving a legacy that continues to shape Seattle today. In 1931, a 6-year-old Wing Luke immigrated from China, barely speaking a word of English. But with tremendous will, resilience, and his innate ability to connect with people, Wing learned to flourish.
When my uncle went to school, as the same with his kids, they didn't even know that people spoke English. So he went to school speaking Chinese, tried to figure it out. And it was not easy. You know, he was bullied. And so the early life was a little bit hard for the Sibs. They stuck very close together.
Wing's natural leadership, charisma, and quiet diplomacy helped him thrive. In 1943, he was elected student body president at Roosevelt High School. Just a year later, his voice carried all the way to Washington, D.C., where he was one of a select few students invited to the White House to speak on juvenile delinquency. But his journey took a dramatic turn when World War II broke out. Instead of the White House, Wing was called to serve, joining the U.S. Army, where he earned a Bronze Star and multiple combat honors for his bravery. While serving his country in war, Wing was called home, not by choice, but by injustice. His family had been evicted from their home and business, targeted solely for their Asian heritage. The experience left a lasting scar, but also sparked a fire that would fuel his lifelong fight for justice and give purpose to everything that followed.
He had to take a furlough, fighting for his country, to come back to rectify racial injustice in his own hometown, for his own family. And that always stayed with him. He never forgot that. And he knew it wasn't just his family. He knew it was so many people's in so many other ways.
After World War II, Wing studied political science at the University of Washington and American University. Leadership came naturally. He became sophomore class president and led the UW Young Democrats. He went on to earn his law degree and briefly entered private practice before making history in 1957 as one of the first people of color to join the Washington State Attorney General's office. There, Wing's drive to fight injustice gained clarity and focus, applying the law to foundational civil rights cases, forever shaping the state of Washington.
Well, it was a challenging place to be if you were a person of color, for example. And I know we think of Washington as a very progressive state, but in the 1950s and the 1960s, anyone who pays any attention to our history understands that despite our reputation currently, in those years, it was certainly a challenging place for a person of color. Part of the reason why I admire him so much is he was able to transcend that, right? That he was able to find a way to navigate his life in such a way that not only was he just successful in a certain sense, he was successful in the most important sense, right? Which was moving Washington State forward to become a more just society. And that's a legacy that, it's hard to do better than that.
In 1962, Wing set his sights on a seat on the Seattle City Council. He faced a wave of racially driven attacks, but met them with dignity, strength, and vision. And when the votes were counted, history was made. Wing became the first Chinese American ever elected to the council, breaking barriers and paving the way for future generations.
That could not have been an easy campaign, to run that campaign in 1962. And in reading his speeches and reading everything I can about him, it's my sense that, first of all, he was just an extraordinary person, an extraordinarily talented individual. You read his speeches, my gosh, I mean, the depth of his thinking about issues facing the city of Seattle, for example. His sense of humor, I think, was something that is maybe underestimated. He clearly had a wonderful sense of humor that might have been disarming to folks. He seemed to work tirelessly. His campaign was very well organized. I think he understood in order to get elected as a person of color in 1962, he had to work extra hard. He had to be doubly good in all ways.
At the heart of Wing's unwavering fight for justice was a man driven by deep compassion, genuine kindness, and an authentic passion for people. This wasn't just seen in his campaign. It defined his time on the city council, where his commitment to others was always at the forefront.
Well, I have a number of memories, but one of them is, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, one day I went to work with him and we walked into the building and it was fluorescent-y, office-y, important building downtown. And he said hello to everyone with an authentic smile, like they welcomed him in, called him by name. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so important. Everybody knows his name. But even more important, he knew their names. And he replied back to them, and it didn't matter if it was the person at the front desk, if it was somebody passing him in the hall, if we saw them in the elevator, and that's who he was. He was, very connected to people.
In office, Wing Luke took on the toughest challenges. He battled real estate developers to save the Pike Place market and fought for the Open Housing Ordinance, ending racial discrimination in housing. His tireless efforts laid the foundation for the Seattle Human Rights Commission, leaving a powerful mark on the city's fight for justice.
Wing Luke's work shaped Seattle, then and now, in the realm of open housing by being one of the preeminent writers and contributors to our current open housing ordinance. And, back then, it was legal to discriminate against people based on their race, based on their national origin, and preventing people from living in certain areas of the city. And so he was really important in creating the law that made that illegal.
From humble immigrant to fearless civil rights champion, Wing Luke had come so far, often standing alone to speak for those who couldn't. But in 1965, just when it seemed he was destined for new heights, his life was unexpectedly cut short in a plane crash. He was only 40 years old.
I feel like I always knew my Uncle Wing was destined for something special. There is something no words can even articulate the magic, basically, that surrounded him. He brought joy, but he also brought meaning with him. He was very intelligent, very smart, well-read, but just had that tenderness, that kindness for people, and a real passion for people to connect with people in authentic ways.
Wing Luke is no longer with us, but his story is far from over. Though we're left to wonder what more he could have done, his vision lives on, continuing to shape the city and inspire those who follow in his footsteps.
Oh, the many things I admire about Wing Luke, one is that just his record on taking on discrimination and injustice, that alone would earn him a significant place in Washington State history. But what I find remarkable is he didn't just do that work, he also was engaged in a whole range of other issues, including preserving, for example, the Pike Place market. It's hard to believe now, but there was a time when folks thought, the Pike Place market, let's pave that thing over, let's get rid of it. We don't really need that anymore. It doesn't fit within the new Seattle. Wing Luke had the foresight, the vision, to be a part of a small group of committed Washingtonians to say, wait a second, this is a special place that is really central to our identity as a city, and help lead on the preservation of the Pike Place market. I think it's not an overstatement to say just the way we think about the city of Seattle, what we care about the city of Seattle, would be very different had it not been for Wing Luke and his leadership as a Seattle City Council member.
Wing Luke's legacy lives on in the voices and visions of the next generation of leaders.
The Wing Luke Civil Rights Division in the AG's office, first of all, it's not just an excellent civil rights division, it's the best in the country. The work they do is truly groundbreaking.
In my work in the Wing Luke Civil Rights Division, I'm carrying on his legacy by listening carefully to what the community wants In our division, we are driven by community requests, community desires. Whatever the community wants is what we are basing our case decision.
And from our standpoint, the team does exactly what I wanted them to do, aspired for them to do, in living up to the ideals of Wing Luke.
Wing Luke's legacy still matters today because his work is far from finished. What lessons has he taught us? How can we take his example and carry it into our own lives? How can his inspiration push us to be better, more compassionate people?